This video is one of two parts. It is about 5 tips to help you start using Photoshop, which goes with one of our blogs, and it's going to cover the first 3 steps. Those steps are, tips are setting a color code and determining a color code in Photoshop, resizing an image and understanding what the canvas size versus the image size is because they're very different, and also using step backwards. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is color codes. As you can see in this image, there's a couple different colors going on, and oftentimes if you're adding to something or you have a logo from somebody or something you worked with, or maybe you just saw a color somewhere that you liked, you might want to figure out exactly what color that is so that you could use it in other places. And there's a very easy way to do that in Photoshop. So it uses the little picker tool. Where is the, here we go. It looks like an eyedropper over here, and so once you click on that and you move, you look like the eyedropper. That's the little icon you have, and all I have to do is click one of these colors, and once I click on that, it becomes the background in the color picker over here. So if I click here, you're going to be able to set the foreground color, and not only set it, but you can also see what it is. If you click behind the bottom or back sort of little palette here, you get the background color. So when I use the color picker tool, if you watch again, and as I'm just left clicking with that little eyedropper tool. If once I do that, you see the little circle, it's grabbing that color, it becomes this background color. So once I click on that, you can see everything about this color. So here's where it falls, here's what it looks like, then here's the hue, saturation, and I forget what this one is, but all the different colors, brightness, sorry, that's what it is. All this, basically all these different color codes you could use, right? The LEB, the CMYK, the RGB, and then this is the hex code. This is what I often use. So now that I have this code, I can turn around, I could use this somewhere else where I'm creating some other graphic for this, potentially say, or I just really like this color. Now I know exactly how to get that color again. If I wanted to change that color, here's where you do that. So here's a different color. This is one of the colors we use for our business. And the nice thing about the color picker is it shows you the contrast between the color you had and the color you're potentially going to use. This is really nice when, like, say with this original pink color, if I were still on that, if I click cancel and I go back and I open this up, say I wanted this to have less, there's no green in it, so maybe less blue. So I could change this to like 125, and you can barely tell the difference. It's probably not enough difference. Let me try 100. Okay, now you can start to see how it's changing this new color, and you can see that it's different than this color. It's not, it's just different because I have dropped the blue that's in this color. So if you see something and it's not exactly what you're looking for, but you know a little bit of which direction you want to go, this is where you can play with these numbers and get exactly where you want to go. So that's kind of a neat little way to use the color picker tool. So this is how you can procure a color from an image, and also how you can set a new color. That's how you do the colors. So I'm going to cancel this. So that's one thing. The second thing is resizing an image and using canvas and also just the regular image sizing tool. So the differences between these are vast. First, I'm going to use the Control-Alt-I keyboard combination to pick up the image size tool. So this is the image size tool I'm going to use. This is telling me exactly what size this image is right now. So I usually change it using the pixels. It's easy for me. And I want to make sure that this, most of the time, I shouldn't say you always want to, but most of the time you're going to want to make sure this is connected. If you don't have this checked, then what happens is you can change the width and or the height independent of one another, meaning your image is going to get skewed because it's not going to maintain the proportions basically as it gets bigger. So it'll depending, like in this example, if I were to make the width much bigger and not the height, then the words Vacaville Action Network on the bottom would get pulled, stretched really wide, and it would look kind of weird. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to say 175. And as I do that, you can see it automatically made the height adjust proportionally. So when I click OK, it's going to get bigger. Pretty easy. So that's how you can change an image size. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can change the canvas size, and canvas size is very different. Canvas size is going to be Control-Alt-C. That's how you get to that one. So now you can see at the top it says canvas size. I'm going to switch this to pixels so you can see exactly what I had before. So this is still what the width and the height look like, right? Just like you just saw. But if I drop this back down, I think it was 119 to 119. Let me show you what happens. it's going to give me an error, or not an error, a warning. It's smaller than the current content and some clipping will occur. Is that okay? And I'm going to say yes. And now look, now I've lost some of my actual image. So the canvas tool isn't necessarily something you would want to use to resize your image if the image was tight like that. Now the third thing I want to tell you about, and then I'll come back to canvas because it makes sense at this point, is this is obviously not what I want because it's not a full picture. So I'm going to go up to edit and I'm going to say step backward, and that's going to undo what I just did. So the step backward is in essence an undo, but you can't undo forever. It doesn't work quite the same as like a Word document or something like that. So you want to be careful doing that. A better way to do things is to add layers, and that's something we're going to discuss in the next video in part 2. But going back to the canvas, I'm going to open up the canvas tool again. Again, it's Control Alt and the C versus Control Alt I for the image size tool. And if I go back to pixels, so sometimes you may want to add to an image, or maybe I just want to get rid of this language right here. Now I could probably use the crop tool for that, it'd probably be easier, but I want to show you this anchor tool. So I'm going to say I want the height to be less, and I don't really know how much less, I'm just going to guess here a little bit. And I'm going to use this anchor tool to say which way I want the cutting to go. So I'm going to click OK and proceed because it's going to tell me it's going to do that. And so it wasn't quite enough, but you could see by using that anchor where all the arrows were pointing up and in the center that it was cutting, it anchored itself to the bottom and cut up. If I had picked, let me go back to the canvas tool, and you go here, you can see I still have a little bit more here. So if I drop this down to 125 and I cut from here, now that's gone. So the anchor tool basically tells you where to start cutting from. So in this instance now I might want to add a little bit more up here, and I could do that same thing with the canvas tool. So that's one of the things the canvas tool does that the image tool doesn't. With canvas size you can accidentally cut some of your image out, but you can also add padding to your image. With the image sizing tool, all you do is resize that original image. So the image itself completely stays intact. You never add outside of the image and you never cut into the image. That is the big difference between canvas and image sizing. So if I wanted to height wise, I could add some a little bit of pixels to the top, and I go yep, and now it doesn't have a white background, but if I saved it as a JPEG file it would. And that's kind of how you can mess with some of the different things in Photoshop. So the color code tool with the little eyedropper, you can do that. Resizing and the image with the image size tool and the canvas size tool, and also when you've done something you don't want to do, you can step backward. And that's it.